My name is Catherine, and I'm the owner and curator of Sew Your Bag. Today, we're going to learn how to make a tassel. Have you ever wanted to learn how to make a tassel but didn't know how and it looked kind of complicated? Well, I'm going to show you two ways that you can make a tassel that will be beautiful for any of your handbags, accessories, or even keys. So come and join me as we make this no-sew tassel.
So the tassel itself is a very simple construction. So we're going to need a couple of things. This is a double-sided tassel. So on one side I have leather and on the other side I have fabric. And you can use vinyl if you want to. And I'll also mention to you another alternative if you did not want this long strap. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need two pieces of material, one for the front and one for the back. So I'm going to use cotton. You can use cotton for both the front and the back. It's just that cotton isn't very stiff, so it will be a very floppy tassel. And because it's cotton, it may even curl or fray. So I recommend that you use cotton and some other stiffer material. In my case, I'm using leather, this piece of leather, scrap leather that I have. You can also use vinyl. A suggestion I have if you're using vinyl or leather, like I am, is take a look at the cut side. So when you cut it, what color is it? And try to find one that where the cut is the same color as your top or your front of your vinyl or your leather. So you can find vinyl that not only comes in black, but the backing as well is also black. If it doesn't matter to you, you can pick a piece of vinyl that you like and use that piece of vinyl, even if the back side of the vinyl is a different color. So here goes an example of vinyl where it's where it's white on the back. And if I flip it over, it's this terracotta color. But as I make my cuts, that white backing will show through. So that's why I'm saying try to find something where the backing is the same. If you don't, it doesn't matter to you one way or the other. It's okay. It's just a suggestion. So we're going to need a piece of cotton. The cotton's going to be 4 inches wide by 6 inches high, and the vinyl or leather will be the same size. So they'll be 4 by 6. If you want, you can make, I don't recommend that you make it smaller than 4, but you can make it wider, which would give you a thicker tassel. So I don't know if you've ever seen those really thick tassels. You can get a thicker tassel, and if you want it shorter, you can also make it shorter. I don't necessarily advise that you make it shorter than maybe 4 inches because it won't have a lot of movement. And you want your tassel to have movement. That's the whole purpose of a tassel. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need something for the strap. So the piece that hangs over the top. And the piece that I'm using is 13 and a half, and I folded it in half, 13 and a half by 3/8 wide. So this is what I will put on the inside here to hang my tassel by. Another option that you have is to cut a piece that's 3 inches high by a 1/2 inch, and then you can get a little 1/2 inch loop like this one, a D-ring, and attach it, and then you would have a shorter a shorter piece to hang it by, but it won't matter because you have that little hook and you can attach it to something. Next thing you will need a piece of what is referred to as Pellon 807. And you can see it's very sheer, and it's called Wonder Web, and it's a fusible webbing, so it looks like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this to fuse our leather or vinyl to our fabric. So we're going to put it right in between the two pieces, and then we're going to use an iron and we're going to fuse them together. So you're going to cut this to the same size of 4 by 6. You can also cut it a little bit bigger if you want, but regardless of how you cut it, I recommend that you use a pressing cloth so that you don't get any of that adhesive glue on the bottom of your iron. We're also going to need a little strip of fabric, a little strip of vinyl or leather. It does not have to be the same color. So if you wanted to get a black piece and use it with this brown, or pick up a purple piece and use it, you can. It's your tassel. You make it any way you'd like. This piece measures 3 inches wide by a 1/2 inch high. So we're going to use that to wrap around the top of our tassel. You will also need a rotary cutter I cut with a rotary cutter. If you want to draw the lines and cut with the scissors, you can do that as well. Leather is kind of hard to do that with, but you can. And some type of ruler. I use a clear ruler so that I can see the little markings. If you have a metal ruler, you can use that as well. You will just probably more than likely need to mark where you need to cut. And the last thing that you will need is some E6000 glue. I recommend E6000 as opposed to fabric tack because I find this has it's stronger hold and it lasts longer. Whereas fabric tack doesn't last as long. I find that anyway. So this is a clear E6000 glue, and that's the last thing that we're going to need to make our tassel. So let's get started. First step is that we're going to get our ironing board, and you're going to set your iron to a cotton setting. There are directions on the webbing, the Wonder webbing, as to how to do this. But if you set it to cotton, you're then going to lay your vinyl or your leather wrong side up. Place your Wonder Web, your Pellon 807 Wonder Web on top of it and smooth it out. Then you're going to take your fabric right side up. So there's wrong sides together that we have here. Right side up. And you're going to match up all the edges. Next, what you're going to do is get some type of pressing cloth. And the reason you're using the pressing cloth is to make sure that you don't get any of that glue on the bottom of your iron, so to keep your iron clean. And you're going to lay it on top of your pieces. I iron from the fabric side. That's why I put the fabric on top, not the leather side, because the fabric is thinner and it's easier for the heat to penetrate. Also, you shouldn't really iron on leather. If you're using vinyl, please check, to make sure. Don't let your iron rest so that it melts or anything like that. Keep your iron in constant motion. If you're using a heat press, then, make sure you test it on a heat press on a swatch. So I'm ironing this on, keeping it in motion. This is dry. I'm not putting any steam. You can put steam, but I'm not, because I just want to fuse it. Once I've done that, I'm going to check it. It should have fused. You can see it's fused to my thing, but it didn't fuse this to that. So I need to get that corner, but you can see it's starting to fuse. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to press it again. So you want to make sure that you're getting that nicely fused on there, because it should stick. Let's check again. I'll check on this side. It's kind of hot, but you can see now that that side is stuck. Can feel it. It's my leather. I do have some overhang on this side. I will come up back and trim it some more, but you're going to do this, and once it's stuck, you shouldn't be able to peel it away. So just double check. If you have to go back with the iron, like for example over here, for some reason it's not sticking, you can go back with the iron. The other thing you can do is take some of your webbing. So this is some scrap webbing that I have. I see it's not sticking here, so I'm just going to stick that scrap webbing right in there, just like that. And I'm going to get another piece. Because my corner doesn't seem to want to stick. Just like that. Remember that we don't want it to stick to the bottom of our iron. So I have a little bit of an overhang there. So I'm going to put my pressing cloth on it and I'm going to iron right there on that corner. The rest of it seems pretty stuck, so we should be okay. I do have a Teflon sheet on my ironing board here as well. So you can put a Teflon sheet, or I recommend you put a Teflon sheet underneath your ironing board, underneath the piece you're going to iron, just to make sure it doesn't stick. So now I've gotten that on there. I don't know if you can see that, that's the webbing. And now everything is stuck. Yep, it's perfect. Everything is stuck. So I'm going to set my iron to the side. And I'm just going to do a little bit of trimming here just to make sure that I don't have any extra fabric hanging over the side. So like over here, I have a little piece of fabric. So I'm just going to cut that off. It doesn't have to be perfectly square. So if you're worried that, oh, it's not going to, do you have to true it up? No, you just have to get it, at this point, you already cut it square. So it doesn't have to be perfectly square. Like you can see my piece isn't like really at the bottom perfectly square, but it will still work. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do after we've done that is we need to make a mark on this. So we need to know how far up we need to cut. And that is because we don't want to cut so far up that we're cutting through this, but we also don't want to cut so far down that we can see we can see some of the fabric, some of your vinyl or your leather. So this is the piece, this 1/2 inch, 3 by 1/2 inch, 3 inches by 1/2 inch is a piece that we want to make sure that we cut at least up to or before. So since this is a 1/2 inch, I'm going to draw a line 3/8 of an inch, which is a little bit shy of a 1/2 inch. And then I will be cutting right underneath here. So you can mark this because you're not going to be seeing it. You can mark it with a pen. I'm going to use a Frisian pen, which is heat erasable only because that's what I have. But make sure the mark that you draw is not going to be seen. That's why I'm having you mark it at 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to draw a line at 3/8 of an inch so that I know how far up I can cut. And you can always go a little above it. You just can't go below it. So I'm going to draw this line just like that. You can even take, let me see that. You see that line? So the ink didn't come out, but it scratched the leather. You can even take like an awl or something if you want to, but you just need a line in there. Okay. The next thing we're going to need is a piece of, you can use regular tape, you can use painter's tape. I wouldn't say so much duct tape, although you can use that as well. I'm going to use paper tape. Like I said, if you have painter's tape, you can use that. If you're using a material that you think will peel, like things will peel off of it if you use tape, then try to use something like a paper tape. You can even use washi tape, something that doesn't have a lot of tack to it, so that when you peel it off, it's not peeling off the backing on whatever material you're using. So I'm going to tape it here. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to tape it down this one side, but only by about 1/8 of an inch. And that's because I want it to stay. As I get closer to this end over here, I will remove that tape on this side because I will need to keep cutting in, but it'll keep it stable this way for me. So now I know when I cut, I'm going to cut. When I get to this line, I can stop. If you go as far as the edge of the tape, that's okay too. You just don't want to cut it all the way out. So that should fall right underneath this. So the line is here, the line is here, and this is the bottom. So I can see that it'll be hidden by that border. I'm doing it on the side also that I can see. If I did it on the fabric side, it may not be as easy for me to see. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to line up my 1/8 of an inch mark all the way down. So from here down, and I'm going to start making cuts up to that line at 1/8 of an inch. As you make a cut, just simply move the piece out of the way and then make the second cut. So once again, I'm looking at my 1/8 of an inch here. I'm following it down the straight edge and I'm going to make that cut. All right. And if you take your piece, you should see when you lay your piece under here, that cut goes right underneath that 1/2 inch piece. So you're going to continue doing this at 1/8 of an inch for the entire width of this piece of material. So your vinyl or your leather. So as you can see, I cut the whole thing right to there. Now I'm going to peel off this tape so I can cut that last strip right there in half. That last strip is about 1/4 of an inch and I only need it to be 1/8, so it's about in half. So now that's our tassel, right? Our tassel is all cut. So the next thing we're going to need to do is take it off of our surface. So we're going to pull it off of our surface. And we're going to peel off that tape that we added to hold it down. So we're going to peel that tape right off. So you have a decision to make at this point. Do you want to see more of the outside, which is what I did here? All right, I cut it and then I can see more of the fabric. Or do you want to wrap it in such a way? So I'm just going to tightly wrap it right here so I can give a peek at it to see that vinyl or that leather. So I'm just roughly wrapping it so you can see the difference. So that one, you see the fabric coming through, and this one, you can see the brown coming through. So the question is, which look do you like better? And you'll make that decision for yourself. So I'm going to do one with this brown leather on the outside because I already have one with the fabric on the outside. So you're going to unfold it and lay it flat. We're going to need to attach our piece. So if you wanted the long strap, and the reason that I have this long piece is because when I put it on my bag that I'm going to put it on, I'm going to make a loop and I'm going to pass my tassel right through that loop, just like this. So then what'll happen is it will hang from my bag by that loop. All right, so it's going to hang just like this by the loop. If you want to use a D-ring, which is this one, you're going to grab your D-ring piece, and that's the piece that we're going to use. So you're going to make a decision which one you want to use. So that's the second decision. I'm going to make another one with the long strap. And to do that, you're going to need to put a bead of E6000 glue on whichever side. So I want to see the leather side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the leather side face down and my fabric right side up. So when I roll it, I'm seeing the leather side. If you want to see the fabric side, you're going to put the vinyl or leather side face up and the fabric down. So I'm going to take my bead of E6000. And remember, you're going to have to try to keep it near the top. So I'm just going to do it. I'm starting over here and I'm going to come down. Stop when you get to about a half of an inch from the end. So I'm going to do this near the top edge. And when I get to about a half of an inch, you're going to stop. The reason you stop there is because as you roll your tassel, it will push your glue. So if you have extra, it'll just push it out. So I don't want to push it out. I just want to push it so that it gets to the end. You're going to take the end of your connector, whichever one you chose, and you're going to put it there. It should be about a half an inch, so it should be the same width of this piece here, and that's how far down you put it. About a half an inch. If you want to put it at 3/8, you can do that as well. All right. So the edge is here. This is it. I'm putting it at 3/8, but you can definitely, if you want to, put it down at half an inch. I'm then going to roll it. So I'm going to turn mine around to make it easier, and I'm going to roll it. You're not going to be able to fold that little piece, this piece here in half. So just fold it. And then you're going to fold it again and make sure to keep it tight. And then you're going to fold it again. As you fold this, try to make sure that you're aligning this top piece here, right? So it shouldn't be higher or lower. It should be totally aligned. So take your time when you're doing this. And you can see I have some glue coming out the top, but that's okay. All right. So once you've done that, you can actually push down a little bit and you can adjust it, pull it so that it's snug and it's tight. All right. So that's what my piece is going to look like. Next, what I want to do is I want to wrap this around the whole top, right? So I'm going to take my E6000 again. I'm going to put some glue, but this time I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch around all the sides. So I'm very scant, 1/8 of an inch, and that so when I'm pulling it, the glue doesn't like spread out all over the place. And then the way that you're going to glue this on is your piece stopped here, right here is where it stopped, right here. You're going to take the piece that's 3 inches long and you're going to push it right up against where that piece stops. You're going to push it right up against it here, just like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to wrap your 3-inch piece all the way around. So you're going to wrap it around. Now I would pull it a little bit and you will notice that you have a little bit of an overage. Take a pair of scissors. I recommend you don't take your good scissors, but take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut it. I'm going to cut a little bit longer because I want them to meet up. Okay. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to wrap it and you're going to make sure they meet. You're going to, even if it has to, you can overlap it a little bit. So mine is overlapping just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch. Don't worry about the glue. It's going to dry clear. You shouldn't have copious amounts or a lot of glue. I'm just rubbing off that glue, but everything is now in there nice and neat. You're going to take a rubber band. And the reason you're going to take a rubber band, and we're going to cut this off so it doesn't really matter. You're going to take a rubber band. Make sure you push that in nice and snug. And you're going to wrap that rubber band around this just like that. Now you can hit this with a blow dryer if you're in a rush, but normally I just let it sit and dry. Don't put it super tight, but make sure it's on there snug. You don't want it so tight that it leaves a ridge or anything, but you want it on there so that it holds that band in place while it dries. So that's the purpose. I don't stick pins in it or anything. I just use a rubber band, just like that. Right? So I'm going to let that sit. It's going to dry. It normally takes, I don't know, I let it sit for a couple of hours. I even let it sit overnight and go on and do something else. I'm never in a rush for the tassel to dry. So I just let it sit. Once this dries, you're going to come back with your scissor and you're just going to cut the rubber band off. You don't need to take that rubber band and try to unwind it again. Just take your scissor and cut it right off, cut that rubber band off. And then you will have a tassel. So that's your tassel. If you're using this style, which is the one that I have here, right? If you're using this style, the way that I attach it to the bag, just to show you, is this is my bag that I want to attach it to. I simply just wrap it around like this, the bottom. I stick the tassel through and I pull it down, just like that. And now I have a tassel. As you can see, this one kind of blends, but if I had used this one, it would stand out. So it's up to you what you like or how you like it. We're going to let this one dry. Once it dries, we'll cut it off and then we will have a really, really nice tassel. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the making of a tassel. If you want to see more, please click on that subscribe button. And if you make a tassel, please don't forget to tag me, #SewYourBag or @SewYourBag on Instagram. Have a good evening. Until next time, be bold and sew a bag you'll love.